state of South Africa's railway network has been on a downward spiral, but many are hoping there is light at the end of the tunnel. The National Rail Policy, has been launched, and the white paper on its policy has now been gazetted. This has opened the door to private freight operators. For more on this, I'm joined by African Rail Industry Association CEO, Mesela Nhlapo. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Now, this week we saw Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula gazetting the white paper on national rail policy, which he says aims to stop the decline of economic activity in the sector, amongst other factors. What's your immediate reaction to this paper?
It's huge excitement, historic moment in South Africa that, we've always had Transnet as the only player, and bringing in new players into the industry will make rail competitive, will ensure that we move the freight from road to rail. We realize that. But most importantly, what is contained in the policy, it must be implemented in that fashion. Mm-hmm. So there are instances where the policy would say that the network must be, the entire network must be opened, and the recent bid from Transnet only gives a limitation of from point A to point B. So that policy is going to be critical to ensure that we revive the railway sector in South Africa.
And how significant will opening South Africa's rail infrastructure property to third-party operators be, especially for the sort of economic situation we find ourselves in as South Africa?
When you look at mining in Ndaba, they say that we have 50 billion opportunity cost, Yeah. If you think about it, we could have done a lot as a country with that type of money. So it will change the landscape. But what I'm also excited about is that we need to transform the sector, ensure that youth and women participate in this sector. So that is going to be critical. You can't transform the railway sector without ensuring that the demographics of the new railway system reflect what we have in the country.
And central to passenger rail reform is the introduction of high-speed rail into the service mix. How significant is this move, especially as we take stock of some of the outcomes of the mining in Ndaba?
Look, I think they've done, the department has done not a pre-feasibility study, but a feasibility study. And they've got their results, and I think at the moment they might be talking to other governments to fund the project. But I think it's a step in the right direction, and but also growing the local manufacturing. What we have learned from the problems of 1064 at Transnet is that if us as industry, we are not heavily involved in making sure that the decisions that need to be taken, we are involved in them, we're going to find ourselves at another Zondo Commission. So as the African Rail Industry Association, we are here to ensure that the locals are employed. We manufacture locally, whether it's the technology coming from Europe or China, they must be manufactured locally. Anything that does not benefit South Africans is not good for South Africa.
Yeah, because we know that the President also made mention and stressed the importance of private third-party access, saying these inefficiencies have had a major impact on exported goods.
Yes, it's the inefficiencies. I mean, talking from coal, I think Exxaro, Tugela, Glencore, the forestry market as well. So we need leaders that understand the whole picture, that if I am not going to deliver on Exxaro, this is what it means for the South African economy. If we fail to get such leaders in government, then we're going to find ourselves where we are today. So it's quite important that the leadership understands rail, because rail is a completely different animal. Mm-hmm. So the inefficiencies that we were talking about, we have let's say a line that has been maybe compromised in a way. Through industry, working with industry, and the supply that comes from industry, you can always make sure that there is enough stock on standby to ensure that a line is not compromised for longer than is required. So what we need to see is procurement taking place from Transnet of maintaining the line. What we have seen is that there's been a 40% decline in maintenance, and that decline is not is informed by our members that are actually the ones that are doing business, whether it's track maintenance, the clips, for the fasteners for the railways. So we see that the maintenance is not being done the way that it's supposed to be done, because the procurement has significantly went down. So if we want to revive the railway industry, Transnet needs to come to the party, industry must come to the party and work with Transnet. And one of our biggest problems that we have with industry is that we don't talk to each other, including Transnet. We talk past each other, and we say things in the media, and there's a lot of misunderstanding. And I want to use this platform that Operation Vulindlela and the presidency, they must actually convene a meeting of railway people that are going to be involved in the operations, the freight owners, Transnet, and other government stakeholders, so that we can sit down, negotiate. We differ where we differ, the food stores and everything, but it's up to us as South Africans to ensure that third party works. It's not government. Yeah. It's not that private operator. If we want this country to work, we have to make it work.
As you speak about third party, we know that Minister Fikile Mbalula, for instance, gave a very firm warning that the private sector involvement mustn't be misconstrued to be privatization, because in all essence, such a policy doesn't exist. What would you imagine to be some of the factors which may perhaps lead to a reading between the lines, you know, this misconstrued notion that the private sector may embody?
We actually had to, when we started in 2020, when the president announced the third-party access, we went on an educational drive that what is the difference between a privatization and access to the network. And I use the example that I am allowed to drive on the N3, and as long as I pay my toll fees. And this is at the toll fees that Transnet will have access to. So it's nothing different than what you find on the road. You're simply going to use the network, and it's a user pay principle. There is no sale of state assets. All private operators want is to have access to the network and nothing more.
And very lastly, before we let you go, I mean, what do you imagine to be some of the challenges in, you know, making this process possible and allowing the third-party rail access into the bigger picture?
It's the engagement within government and private sector must start as soon as possible. And because if we don't do that, it takes me about 24 months to place an order for a train set. So already, if we agree with government with the terms and conditions, at least as a start, I can boldly take my 3, 4, 5 billion rand and go and buy rolling stock, of which it will take 24 months to be manufactured, and most of that, by the way, will be manufactured locally and increasing jobs. So for me, it's important that Operation Vulindlela, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Transport, Minister of Public Enterprises have a transparent process. And after all, the government says they're a listening government. They are transparent. The Butterfly principle dictates that they be transparent. So industry is willing and waiting for the invitation by government so that we can start working on terms and conditions of third-party access and ensure that we as a country, we don't have this opportunity cost that we have lost. 35 billion, it's a lot of money. We could have done a lot. We could have educated. We could have invested some of that money in our health sector. So it's important that the right people sit on the table. We conclude this as soon as possible, so that South Africa as a business can thrive.
You made mention of women being part of this, positive motion. How do you foresee the involvement? On what level? And how open is the industry to that accommodation?
Oh, the industry must open. I'm here. That for me, that is non-negotiable. We are part of this industry. We are the ones that make this industry, and the opportunities for women are huge from the investment point of view, from manufacturing itself, because we know that women in certain instances, when they build some components, they require a lot of women. So as far as I'm concerned, not only women, but the youth as well. We must find opportunities. We can't be importing forever. If we don't have the skill, we will take our time, we will learn the skill and produce locally. That time of creating jobs in other people's countries must come to an end. As South Africa, we must stand up and stand up for our rights as South Africa to ensure that this country will export, will benefit from CFTA, and lead the continent into manufacturing of railroading stock.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for weighing in there. That was African Rail Industry Association CEO Mesela Nhlapo.